So today we are going to see the question and answers of chapter 9 of Dr. Rajiv Mal's book, which is user interface design. First is list 5 desirable characteristics that a good user interface should possess. A good user interface. So the answer would be we identify a few important characteristics of good user interface, and these are few of them. The first and foremost is once you are using it, or once you are willing to use it, the speed of learning has to be very fast. Means you should take no time in learning. The use of metaphors and intuitive command lines should be there. Everywhere in the GUI, the consistency is to be maintained, and the interface has to be component based. The use, again, if you learn quickly, you can use it quickly, and you can also recall if you visit it sometime else after a gap. Then the recalling is quite easy. The error prevention, if some error is also there, then the graceful degradation or the error problem is to be reported to the user. It should be attractive. Always people judge by the first look. The consistency, as I suggested, like here, the feedback has to be there. Feedback means if any problem is there, it needs to be reported. And for different levels of people, skill level, because there can be naive people, there can be novice, there can be expert users, there can be moderate expert users, there can be highly experienced people. All those needs to be catered as far as GUI is concerned. So multiple skill levels has to be seen. Error recovery, that is undo facility. If sometime this always happens. Error is human. A human may make mistake. For that, error recovery has to be there. Control Z, with what we see in various word editing softwares. Then user guidance and online help. If a user is stuck, where he will go, to whom he is going to ask. For that, the guidance and online help should be there in an interactive and diagrammatic manner. Second question is compare the relative advantage of textual and graphical user interfaces. As compared to the command line interfaces, what are the benefits? Let us compare these characteristics of GUI with those of our textual based user interface. In GUI, we have multiple windows with certain different information, and that can be simultaneously at a single time be displayed on the user screen. If the iconic information is there, the representation in iconic form or a symbolic information, the manipulation in this form is possible in GUI. In GUI or GUI, it usually supports command selection with an attractive and user-friendly menu selection system. Just by use of your mouse, you can support various menu selections. In GUI, a pointing device, as I just suggested, mouse or a light pen can be used for issuing commands. And the use of pointing device, it increases the efficacy of command issue procedures. But there is a flip side also. On the flip side, a GUI requires special terminals with graphic capabilities. This is important, while the command line or textual will not. This for running and also requires special input devices such as mouse or pen we just discussed. So this is the flip side. What are the difference between user guidance and online help system in the user interface of a software system? Discuss the different ways in which online help can be provided to user while he is executing the software. So the difference is asked between the user guidance and online help. What is user guidance? User guidance is that whenever user is using the software or the product, then while he is going along, he may be shown the tooltips. If he does something, the next step can be shown, or if he does something wrong, then the problem or the solution can be shown. These are the user guidance. But a documented version fully in a diagrammatic step-by-step manner of the present version of the software, present inside the software itself, is online help system. Then what are the different ways in which online help can be provided to the user? You see, if you have a menu-based system, you can have a menu for online help. Okay, a PDF or a file in the CHM form or in certain other form can be displayed to the user so that he may interact. He can also save so that he may use it or learn it later. Also, there is always a possibility that you can provide the user with the hard binded, means with the binded material in the hard form. Fourth is compare the relative advantages of command line or command languages, menu based and direct manipulation interface. So let us compare the advantages, and in these categories, which is command language, menu based and direct manipulation, among these three categories of interfaces, the command language interface, it allows the most efficient command issue procedure, which requires only minimal typing. You just have to type few commands, remember few commands, and if you type, it will be very fast and it will be very quick. So, but we have this command language, which is based, these command line based interfaces, they are quite difficult to learn. And why they are difficult to learn? Because you need to memorize the command, and there are certain primitive commands you always need to remember. You can't just go to the system and just start working. First, you have to learn. Then come we talk about menu based interfaces. So an important advantage of this menu based system or menu based interface over this command based language interface is that this menu based interface, they does not require you understand or closely or remember the command. You don't have to. So menu based interface is based on just recognition of the command names rather than recollection. You know that edit means what? You can just press edit. Copy, you press copy. So in a menu based interface, the typing effort is minimum, and in some menu based system there is no typing at all. So most interactions, they are carried out through pointing device, which I am using right now. See, this is the mouse. And the important advantage of iconic interfaces, what about this? That icons, they can be easily recognized by the users. Icons are pictures only, so a picture is worth 10,000 words. And that the icons are language independent. This is very important. They are language independent. But direct manipulation interfaces can be considered slow for experienced users. Those users who are aware of the commands, who can learn the commands, or they have been working for years in the command line or this kind of environment, they may find it menu based somewhat deterring. So it is difficult to give complex command using direct manipulation interfaces here. So these are the few answers you can give. B. Suppose you have been you are asked to design the user interface of a large software product. Would you choose a menu based, a direct manipulation, a command language based, or a mixture of these types of interfaces to develop the interface for your product and justify your choice? In most of the cases today, most of the organizations, they apply or they employ the mixture of all types of interfaces to develop the interface of the product. And users, they start as novices, but they become more and more proficient as they continue to use the software. Because if you learn to ride a bicycle, first time you will fall. For sure, this has happened to everybody. But when all the three types of interfaces are available, the user can choose the interfaces that best suits his, depending on his experience level. So even for novices, experienced, and for other skill set people, a mixture will be the best. Now let us take the true and false questions. Support your answer with the proper reasoning also. First is, visual programming style is restricted to use interface development only. Visual programming, interface development, user interface development only. This is actually false. The reason is, the visual programming has been successfully used or employed in many other areas like computer-aided design, CAD, animation applications also. So this is not only restricted to user interface development only. B. Novice or new users normally prefer command language interfaces over both menu-based and iconic interfaces. This is absolutely wrong. Novice, they prefer the iconic interfaces because the commands are they in this case, iconic interface, the commands are self-evident and you are required to enter in minimum keyboard strokes. C. For modern user interfaces, LOC is an accurate measure of the size of the interface. C. This is the question we have answered in the Kokomo version also, that chapter also, cost estimation. This is actually false because in modern interfaces, they are developed using a user interface component paradigm. So LOC is just not a meaningful measure of the size of the interface. There are a more accurate measure in the widget points. That is why the answer is false. Now discuss why several popular software packages support a command language in addition to a menu-based and iconic user interfaces. Now this is obvious because users, they start as novices, but they gradually become very proficient as they continue to use the software. So when all the three types of interfaces are available, the user can now shift to, or they can choose the interface that will best suit their experience level. That is why several popular software packages, they have this command line options also. Seventh is list the important advantages and disadvantages of command line interface. We have seen just now that among these three categories of interfaces, the command language interface allows the most efficient command issues procedure. You need to require just write few commands, but command language based interfaces, they are difficult to learn and require the user to memorize the set of primitive commands. This is the biggest drawback, I must say. Eighth, list the important advantages and disadvantages of menu-based interface. Now, there are disadvantages of menu-based also. First, let us see the advantages. First is the menu-based interfaces over this command language interfaces. The menu-based interfaces, they don't require you to remember the exact syntax of the command. They might be complicated sometimes. And you just need to recognize and recollect. That is only what is required. But in a menu-based interface, the typing effort is minimal. The typing effort is minimal as most interactions are carried out through menu selections using a pointing device. And the disadvantage is that the expert user may find it sometimes very slow, or not very worthy of actually getting close to the system or the hardware. Ninth, compare the relative advantages of scrolling menu, hierarchical menu, and walking menu as techniques for organizing user commands. First is the scrolling menu. This will allow the user to view and select the menu items, and that cannot be accommodated on the screen. But in a scrolling menu, all the commands should be highly correlated so that the user can easily locate a command that he needs. This is important here. In hierarchical menu, what happens? This can be used to manage large number of choices. But the users are likely to face navigational problems because they might lose track of where they are in the menu tree. So this probably is the main reason why this type of interface is rarely used. What are the important advantages of iconic interfaces? This includes the fact that icons can be recognized by the user quite easily, and the icons are language independent. This is most important. But the direct manipulation interfaces can be considered quite slow by the experienced user, and moreover, it becomes difficult to give this complex command using direct manipulation interface. We come to question 10. What do you understand by an iconic interface? Explain how you can issue commands using an iconic interface. As we have said that iconic interface, they present an interface to the user in the form of visual models, or say bitmaps or icons, bitmap icons. So this direct manipulation interface, they are called iconic interfaces. The user just issues command by performing actions on these icons, objects. You can pull an icon representing a file into an icon representing a tile box for deleting the file. This is so easy. You have seen in Windows desktop also. You can just drag a file and place it into the recycle bin, and the file will be deleted. 11th, list the important advantages and disadvantages of a direct manipulation interface. The important advantage of this iconic interface is that, again, we are repeating it, but the questions are given in the book, so we have to complete it. The users, they are quite happy with the icons and they are language independent, and the rest remain the same as in the previous question. 12th, list the important GUI components using which you can develop a graphical user interface for any application. GUI components. See, GUI components, I'll just give some of them, but there are many. If you go to a dialog or say form of Windows or dialog of Visual C++, you will see number of options of widgets there. So you can have a label, container, pull-up menu, pull-down menu, dialog boxes, combo boxes, radio button, push button, picture control, progress bar, etc., and all those which are available there. 13. What is the difference between mode-based and modeless user interface? Mode-based and modeless user interface. What are their relative advantages, and which one would you use for developing the interface of a software product supporting a large number of commands? Justify your answers. So a mode, this is a state or a collection of state in which only a subset of all user interaction tasks can be performed. Again, a mode is a state or a collection of states in which only a subset of all user interaction can be performed. While in a modeless interface, the set of commands can be invoked at any time during the running of the software. So a modeless interface has only a single mode, and all the commands are available all the time during the operation. While in a mode-based interface, different set of commands can be invoked depending upon the state or the mode of the system. That is, the mode at any instant is determined by the sequence of command already issued by the user. And for developing the interface of a software product supporting a large number of commands, a mode-based interface would be suitable. As otherwise, if a large number of commands are supported using a modeless interface, then the interface would be very difficult to learn and use. For example, if in an application you are doing something, and for that you don't require something to be there, means some menu should be made gray or inactive. This is the mode based. What is WMS? Window Management System. Represent the main component of the WMS in a schematic diagram and briefly explain their roles. A window management system, WMS, is a resource manager. This is nothing but a resource manager. So it just keeps track of screen area resource, and it allocate it to the different windows that seek the use to use the screen. And it also provides the basic behavior to the windows, and it provides several utility routines to the application programmer for user interface development. A WMS simplifies the task of a GUI designer by providing the basic behavior of various windows, such as you can move, resize, iconify as soon as they are created, and by providing the basic routines to manipulate the windows from application programs such as creating, destroying, changing different attributes of the windows, and drawing text. Okay, so we have diagram also. It will come. You have to draw the diagram, and you have learned in the theory also. So what are the advantages of using a window management system for GUI design? Names of commercially available window management system. So this is what I was talking about. This is the diagram. WMS simplifies the task of your GUI designer to great extent by providing the basic behavior of various windows like move, resize, iconify. You don't have to write it again and again. So as soon as they are created, and providing the basic routines to manipulate the windows from the application programming, like creating, destroying, changing different attributes of the windows. Or you can also draw text and lines, etc. easily. So a user. This is a user. This is a Windows management system. You have a user. You have a window management system in this. So in a Windows management system, you have window manager and you have Windows system. Your user, when he is using the application program, he is actually dealing with the Windows system and window manager at the same time. The number of commercial WMS like Motif, OpenLoop Window Manager, KWM and TWM, etc. 16. Briefly discuss the architecture of X window system. What are the important advantages of using X window system for developing GUIs? The X architecture, we'll see tutorial just now. First, let us go to question number 17. Write 5 sentences to highlight the important features of Visual C++. VC++. VC++ comes in Visual Studio, and now the version is Visual Studio 2015. Now Visual C++ has also the .NET capabilities. Previously it was MFC based, but now we have CLR and various other things which are included in Visual C++. So Visual C++, it provides tools for building programs with window-based user interfaces for Microsoft Windows environment. So in VC++, you usually design menu bars, icon, dialog boxes, etc. So you can make a MDI, multiple document interface, SDI, single document interface. You can have a dialog-based program. These objects are called resources. These all are called resources. And you can design shape, location, type, and size of these dialog boxes before writing any C++ code. So you have a C++ code on the background, and it interacts with your Windows. 18. What do you understand by a visual language? How do languages such as Visual C++ and Visual Basic let you do the component-based user interface development? So visual language. What do you understand by visual language? Now, visual programming is an idea of dragging and dropping of program development. So in this style of user interface development, a number of visual objects like icons, they represent the GUI components as provided by your programming environment. So the application programmer, they can easily develop the user interface just by dragging the components like menu, forms, etc. that are displayed as icons, and you can place them anywhere you want. So the visual programming, they can be considered as a program developed through a manipulation of several visual objects, and the reuse of program component in the form of visual objects is possible. And this is an important aspect of style programming. As I said that we'll see this question number 16, the X architecture, which is pictorial given here. So this is the architecture of X system. You have applications here with your X toolkit. X library is there. Then you have a network interface. And with network interface, inside this you have X server and then display hardware. 19th. What do you understand by component-based user interface development? What are the advantages of component-based user interface development? So in this style of that is component-based user interface development, every user interface can easily be built from just handful of predefined components like menus, dialog boxes, forms, as we have seen in Visual Basic and Visual C++. So besides this standard component and the facilities to create good interfaces from them, one of the basic support available to the user interface developer is your Windows system. And you know, we have learned about the Windows system just now. The Windows system allows the application programmer to create and manipulate windows without writing the basic window functions. They are already there and they can be reused easily. Then we have question number, this one, prepare a checklist for user interface inspection. Now you are provided a user interface. Now you want to inspect it. What will be the checklist? First is you will check for the visibility of the system status. Then you will see the match between the system and the real world. Then whether the undoing mistake is there or not. Then you will see the consistency. And then you will talk about or observe the recognition rather than the recall. Then you will see the support for multiple skill level, if it is there or not. The aesthetic, the minimalistic design, whether the help and error messages are proper, and the error prevention is there or not. You know, error, there are two things: error prevention and error detection. So if you prevent the error, then it will be very good. Then we come to question number 22. First, study the user interface of some popular software products such as Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Open Office, GIMP, and identify the metaphors used. Also examine how tasks are broken up into subtasks and closure achieved. And I leave this question as an exercise for you. I hope that you will go along and see all these softwares and try to answer this question. 23rd. What do you understand by a metaphor in a user interface design? And why is a metaphor-based user interface design advantageous? List a few metaphors which can be used in user interface design. So, the abstractions of real-life objects and concept from day-to-day real-life example used in a user interface design are called metaphors. I'll just give you an example. If I say come on in or talk, you know what I'm trying to speak. I want you to speak something. Or where? I'm saying, where are you? Where? So these are the metaphors in daily life. So metaphors help in interface development at lower effort because people, they are aware of these words, languages, and they reduce cost for training the users also. If you use some jargons or hefty words or some technical words, will not be at all useful. So people have developed efficient methods of dealing with some commonly occurring situations. These solutions are the themes of the metaphors. The metaphors can also be based on physical objects such as visitor's book, catalog, and a pen or a brush or a scissor. So a solution based on metaphors is easily understood by the user. It reduces the learning time and training cost. So these are the metaphors which I am going to tell you. First is whiteboard, shopping cart, desktop, editor's workbench, white page, yellow page, office cabinet, post box, bulletin board, visitor books, and say recycle bin, cut, copy, paste. All are these metaphors. 24th. What do you understand by a modal dialogue? And what are these? Why are these required? Why should the use of too many modal dialogues in an interface design is avoided? See, some of the windows have to be defined as modal dialogues. What are these modal dialogues? When a window is a modal dialog, no other windows in the application is accessible until the current window is closed. So you have to, when a modal dialog is closed, the user is returned to the window from which the modal dialog has invoked. So modal dialogs are commonly used when an explicit confirmation or authorization step is required for an action. That is confirmation or delete. Now, these type of dialog, it appears to you, and you have to press something, you have to give some entry. If you don't give, the process is not going to proceed. So they require certain permission from you, certain input from you. These modal dialogues, they are essential in certain situations, but overuse of modal dialogues, they reduces user flexibility. In particular, sequence of modal dialogues should be avoided. There can be modal dialogues, but it should not be, your application should not be flooded with the modal dialogues. Then the question is, how does the human cognition capabilities and limitations influence human-computer user interface designing? So the question is, human cognition capabilities means how human sees, and the limitation of these, how human computer user interface designing influences this. So these are what we are trying to answer. That some important issues which concern limitations of human cognition capabilities. What human perceives, what are the capabilities of human, and the influence on human-computer user interface. First is humans have limited memory. He can't or a human cannot remember everything every time. There are frequent task closure. That means doing a task requires doing several subtasks. So when the system gives a clear feedback to the user that a task has been successfully completed, the user gets a sense of achieved and relieved. What happens when I download something? When I'm downloading, the size is 1 GB. Now it will take time, say 30 minutes or 20 minutes. I've started doing some other work, so I will forget about that download. So there has to be some mechanism or some option to show the user that okay, now this has completed. Then recognition rather than recall. So information recall incurs a large memory burden on the user, and it needs to be avoided. And recognition of information from the alternative shown to him is more acceptable. Nobody wants to remember, or even if he remembers, he will not recall them. Then procedure versus object-oriented. Procedural design, they focus on task, prompting the user at each step, like you use in ATM, giving them few options of anything else. This approach is best applied in situations where the tasks are narrow and they are well defined, where the users are inexperienced, like in ATM, as I just suggested. But in object-oriented interfaces, on the other hand, it focuses on objects. This allows the user a wide range of options which can be made available to him. 26. Distinguish between user-centric interface design and interfaces designed by users. So what is this? The important differences between user-centric interface design and interface design by user is like this. User-centered design is the theme of almost all modern user interface design techniques. User-centered. However, this user-centered design does not mean design by users. One should not get the users to design the interface, nor should one assume that the user opinion for this design is alternative, is superior, is always right, because you are the experienced person. You know how to design. You have designed for various companies, softwares. For user may be naive. He may see something in his narrow perspective. You have to make it wide and large. Then we have users have good knowledge of the task they have to perform. They also have they also know whether they find an interface easy to learn and use, but they have less understanding and experience in GUI design than the GUI developers. So always trust and listen to what he is saying, but go with your style and your ideas and the betterment of the software. So this was all question and answers of Dr. Rajiv Mal's books on software engineering on graphical user interface. Thank you so much. Take care.